Hi, everybody. Welcome to Piercing the Veil.
Hey, welcome everyone. It's nice to see you.
Hope everybody's had a great week and just a blessing and had a wonderful time. I know a lot of people have been experiencing rain and cold and warm weather, then back to cold and warm and storms. And it's about that time of season, I guess. So, I mean, should still be winter, but seems like spring's coming awful early.
Yep, I'm enjoying it.
And speaking of storms, we have Heidi Popp on tonight, and she lives in California, and they've been experiencing a lot of rain and storms coming through their area.
A lot of
So we have
flooding.
a lot of flooding, and that's coming across to us, and we're going to get hit again Tuesday, and so we'll see what happens. And we got a lot of people coming up in chat. We got Roger and Paranormal Pixie and Gary Spikes.
I see
And
Neoma,
D1 and Neona Finn. Hi, Neona.
Griff,
Neoma. D Worm. Moon at Noon. Forest Friends.
got Gary.
Yeah, Gary and Tracy Hall and Mud Rabbit. I think Mud Rabbit's on Heidi's side. So I pinned Heidi's YouTube on the top of the chat, so you guys can all go to Heidi's YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and bring Heidi up, and we'll get going with this. And hi, Heidi.
Hi. Hello. How are
Welcome.
you?
Good.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. How's the
We're
Midwest?
we're glad you're here.
I love it. I've been
The
looking forward
Midwest
to
is,
this.
Midwest is warming up. Yep. Well, we warmed up, and then yesterday it dropped several degrees. We were in the 30s. Today's back in the 60s. We got that for a few days, then back down into a 30, and then back up in the 60s. It's Midwest weather.
Okay. Typical. Yeah. There you go.
Typical weather.
Yeah, we're sending you some crazy stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Something
You guys
else
can
is
just keep
coming.
it.
Yep,
You
they're
can
gonna
just keep
see.
it there. You don't have to send it.
I know. Forewarning, we got all the Argyles again today, so they're stirring up
Oh,
something. So it's coming.
Wow.
Yeah. Still getting
yeah.
rid of my thing. Everybody got hit with this crazy thing recently, right after a weather
We haven't
system
really got
too.
rid of the last one we had. Seems like everybody's coughing and it has phlegm build up in the back of the throat, and just when you feel better,
Sinuses.
it comes right back.
That's it. They said it's like about a month. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm 2 weeks
Yeah.
in. Ay, ay, ay. Hello to the chat. Hello
Yeah, we got
there.
a good chat going here.
I see we got Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress came
Hi,
in,
Jessica.
and we got Ricky
Jessica.
Elmore, and
She rocks.
Mud Rabbit said hi to you.
Hi, Mud Rabbit. Thanks,
And
Mud
Forest
Rabbit.
Friend.
Roger Blair.
Aw.
It's good to see Neoma.
Uh-oh. It
Go
got her
ahead
for
and
2 months.
go
Did you
ahead and
see
tell
that?
everybody in our chat all about you and where you're at on socials and what you got
Sure.
going on. I know you got your own show.
I do. I've kind of reinvented myself a few times. I got a gift of the gab, so I'm trying to find what's the best way to do it. So as of late, I've begun this new series, The Synaptic Circle, and I'll be bugging you all about that soon. And it's been really fun. We go live so we can chat with the community, and it's a bunch of like minds, and we have a common theme among us, and we just share our human insight and experience about it. And it's been really fun. It's been nice to focus on that. I do have an ongoing series that airs every 2 weeks with my buddy Lawrence August, and it's called the Kids Health Series. And
Right.
we focus on holistic health for kids and families. And he actually is in the medical field and he works with kids. And so it's been really, and I've known him since Chicago. I'm a Chicago girl. So I've known him almost 30 years. So we're just like giddy doing this together. He lives out here now. And And with that being said, I'm on YouTube, and I think you put my link. And before we taped, we were talking about the tomfoolery that goes on YouTube. So feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll probably see an addition, and then it'll be taken away in a couple days. So just keep checking. I'm also still on Facebook and Instagram and X and Twitch but my page that's the least amount of bots and censorship is my Rebooted. So you'll see Heidi Popp Rebooted, and that's where you
There you go.
How's that?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you're out there everywhere on social, and your following starting to pick up. And I know we've been watching your shows.
Yeah, I really appreciate that support. And shout out to our buddy Terry. Hi, Mr. B, because through Terry, I got to meet you. I got to meet my buddy Jim today, and I'm meeting so many more like minds in the community. So, and I thank social media for that. You know, we have pals across the planet now. So that's been really fun. And it looks like I'm on social media all the time, but I am a lead educator. I do teach. I work with kids, and I call them little starseed kids. We don't do the conventional teaching. We do like a newer type of education. And that's where I am at a learning center 3 days a week. And the rest of the time, I'm a mom and a wife and a chaperone, a chauffeur.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we've been watching both your series, the educational one and also the one the Synoptic Circle, and I've really been liking it, because you've been touching on a bunch of different subjects, whether it's music or anything like that. And
thank you. You really kept the peace for me. I was really imploding on the one about Wisconsin UFOs and stuff. Every tech issue, and that's when this bug started hitting me. So you can see like a film of sweat. I'm just like, I don't even know what to do anymore. You're like, just keep going, Heidi.
Yep. You just had a little bit of background. It just like repeat your voice just a little bit, but it didn't really take away from the show. I mean, we could hear everything you were saying, and it was fine.
That's great. If you knew on my end, there was some glitching happening, and I felt like I kept dropping. And Aaron, our buddy Aaron Moriarty of Truth Quest, he kept getting dropped out. So all these weird little things, but you were like calm within that storm. So thank you. Those things happen. That's the power of alive.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to, my computer is the one that logs onto the show, and then I actually had to log out and get back in one time while the show was going. So it's like, it's no big deal. I mean, it's live. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Right.
Okay. Good to know that you can do that and you won't lose the show. I'll remember that.
As long as you don't click that end stream, you're still going.
Hey, oh, wonderful. Okay. And speaking of Aaron, I see Aaron. Hi, Aaron Moriarty. He's over there. And I think I just saw Mr. Bauer. Hello, Professor.
Yep. Professor's out there.
Hi, pals.
Professor's coming up on our show here not too long.
Great.
And
that's fantastic. I saw you guys went 5 hours last week.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yep. Jim left for a while, and then he came back, and they just kept on going.
That's so great. That's so fun. Hey, when you're on a roll, there you go. Why not?
Yep. I think that's why we do our Night Owl Lounge Wednesday nights. We'll go 5-6 hours. I think it gives us some practice for Mr. B's live streams.
That's so great. He's a sweet pea too. Oh yeah, you got some sweet pals in the chat. This is fun.
Oh yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? And where do you want to start, with your childhood or a current one, or wherever you want to start?
Okay. Well, I think it is good to start with the childhood because it does kind of reflect back to some moments that happened, in the last few years. But I have to preface by saying my first 5 years of my life, I have no memories. I got nothing. And that's triggering. But I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole too far yet. I'm balancing out my 3D, so I don't want to go too far. But I do recollect I was born in Illinois. Then we moved to Texas. I do know that. And then we moved to Portland, Oregon, right outside of Portland, Oregon, in the hills overlooking the city. And then I was about 5-6 years old. And that's when the the paranormal part of that, I say the fun, the pretty, the elemental, the fairies, I was really having a good time with that stuff. I did have experiences with fairies and pixies. I witnessed a Bigfoot crossing, and I also had a mom who never shushed me. She never said, "Oh,
Oh,
you're
okay.
imagining." She was like, "Well, those are probably multidimensional beings, and you're lucky that you're having these experiences." So I'm like, "Cool." And I know before we hit record, I was sharing that I also thought everybody was doing this. So to me, I was like, it wasn't like I went to school. I was like, guess what I saw? I just assumed everybody had that experience at some point.
Right.
So having those, I never felt terror. I never felt threatened or scared. It was very normalized to interact with them. I spent a good deal of time alone. I mean, I had a sister, but I was very comfortable in forests and woods and outside. We had a really beautiful house that was a cliffside. So the backyard was like the hill, the mountain. And that was where, you go play, which meant go
Right.
climb a mountain. And I had my little tree house on the ground that I just tend to, and I made little fairy houses all over the place because they literally were these balls, these orbs, golden orbs of light, and I was interacting with them. And so it was a very magical place for me. Little did I know, super side story that I don't really share on other shows is my parents were having a hard time. It was like 1979 to like 1985, we were there, and we wound up having to leave in order to save the family. It was a dark time, I think, for my folks, but I was, thankfully, blissfully unaware. Now, whether that means I was escaping or not, I'm not sure, but I just had a lot of love, and I thought it was a magical spot. We took my parents were very invested as well in getting out of town. So we always took off on the weekends and explored, and the terrain is just gorgeous there. I really learned to appreciate a view. So we spent a good amount of time off grid, in the mountains or in the Columbia Gorge or in the waterfalls, really exploring. And which another thing I thought everyone gets to have this kind of childhood. So I was totally blissed out kid. And it was one of those weekend adventures at our pop-up van again that we took everywhere to Campton, and that we were driving to Cannon Beach, and we'd take the back roads. And that's when I still believe with all my heart, hook me up to a monitor, whatever you think, I saw a Bigfoot. And
Wow.
what I remember most about it is, and my dad usually drives fast, but I remember him not driving fast and being thankful because I'm like, cool, I could actually take a moment to see it. And I remember when the head turned and the car is moving, but literally connecting with me. Like I felt this zing and like something,
Okay.
and it was like, oh, hi, oh, it's for me. Hi. Like it was a really goosebumpy. And I'm saying that because this will reference later in life, but I had this reaction in my body, and it was just like, oh, wow. And no fear. Like it was just like an energetic connection. And even, sharing that at later times, with my mom, hey, this happened. Oh yeah, it was they're Earth Guardians, la 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 la. Next. And I was just like, okay. And so anyway, it was really cool. So I mean, I remember watching Mount St. Helens erupt. We were there for some big moments, but we moved in 1985 and we moved back to the Chicago area. And it was I'm glad we did. My grandparents were there. It was nice, but what was really cool is we up in Door County, Wisconsin. So it's the peninsula of Wisconsin. That's where my dad was born and had some roots. And he really wanted us to have like a place to escape Illinois and just start establishing a family place, that everyone can go to. So we got a summer home, seasonal home up there. And I started going up there for the whole summer, like the day I went out of school till the day I went back to school. And a lot of the times it was just me and my mom. And when I didn't know this, but so that was about 11, 12. But by 13, I'm starting to have really terrifying experiences. And
Okay.
like I'm talking sleep paralysis, the white light, Giants home. The white lightning, the these moments, where you feel you're getting crushed, and I'm like, I can't get her. The sleep paralysis. I kept seeing shadowy beings in the doorway that would just terrorize me. All this kind of stuff. Hi, giant hope, and
All right.
he's like, "Oh, this again." No, just kidding.
Tell him we said hi.
They say hi. He was fishing. That's how close we are to a lake. So I was having these really scary moments, enough of a moment that it took me a while to put myself to sleep. Like my mom would say, her eyes were like when I'm telling her the story. She goes, "Okay, you need to be here and say, I am not ready. I am not ready for this. I'm Christ's child. Leave me be. Let me be."
Right.
And I would be reciting this at night. And what was happening at the same time is my mom was having experience. She didn't divulge that till a little later, but she was seeing craft at our place. We were on the water with a pier and everything. She was seeing the dancing lights. She had her biggest experience was when I actually wasn't there. My sister and I were not there. She was alone, and she has a whole loss of time, like a whole night. And that was after she went to a gathering in town of experiencers. And she goes, "What is happening to me? What am I seeing? I want to hear about it." They tell her about it. They say they're trying to contact you. So she says she went home. She made a pot of coffee. She turned on the radio, the TV, every light in the house. And she's like, "Nope. I'm just studying. I don't want this." Cut to, she gets up off the floor and she's like, "What happened?" And she's lost of time. So, and then she was visited by some beings in her room, things of this nature. And then I'm starting to have this stuff. So what I cut to today with kids now of that age, I'm starting to implement more protection, especially at night.
Right.
And that's like putting the white shield around, saying their mantras before they go to bed, little copper pyramids at their bed, crystals, the works, because that might have been missing then. But I'm sorry if I'm jumping around. At that same time, 13-ish, I picked up the book Communion, Whitley
Right.
Schreiber. So I got haunted by that. So all my little fairy forest, Bigfooty, like, "Oh, I'm one with the flowers, went to like, they're coming for me, like I just felt, even in the daytime outside in the woods where I used to have my big expanding breath, I started to feel bum rushed. I started to feel watched, like was not comfortable. And so that went on until about 16. And then I think ego took over. I don't know. I think it just kind of was like I left when I moved downtown Chicago to go to school, went to DePaul. I stopped visiting the home a lot. And that was the experiences kind of cut from there. But so that was some of the childhood, and I can dive deeper into those things. But what I wanted to share is cut to, there's a chunk of my life that, then it went dormant. It was all about me. It's all about my 20s and, living the rock star life and that kind of stuff. And, but I come out here to California in 2000, and it was 2020. I had an experience, and 2021 and 2022. And what makes me think of my childhood is the one experience in 2020. It was fall. I was in my back patio. My kids are around and everything. And I just felt like this clarity. I've gone through like a sobriety cleanse. Like I really started thinking about this world of this again. I'm studying. I'm active in the community, and I'm like, yeah, but I had experiences. What was that? And then I'm asking to connect. I'm like, why don't y'all just come pay me a visit? Like this kind of stuff. And then I'm sitting in the back on my stoop, and here comes this like these lights. And I thought nothing of it for a second because I was by Van Nuys Airport. But then it was like and it went right over really fast, just stayed above my head. And then I was like, what? And I looked up, and then this dance of light started happening that I immediately was taken back to the stories from my mom. It was like the lights that danced for her. And then I started like having that body reaction. And I'm like, is this for me? Because I was like, drone, it can't be. It was a no-fly zone because of the airport. So there's no drones. I was justified. And then I'm like, let it go, Heidi. This is an experience. So I tried making a little contact. I'm like, is this, thank you. I see you.
Right.
I get it. And I'm giddy, I'm teary, I'm like goosebumpy. I'm having this funny exchange. I'm going like this. I'm like, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm having this moment. And then I went bloop. And I went to grab my phone and I came up and it was gone. And then I was like, and
Oh,
then I started cry laughing because I'm like, I know what you did there. That was just for me. I wasn't supposed to share. I know what you did. I still see you. I thank you. I had a little fun moment with them. And then same thing with the flashback was 2021. I was at Isetti Ranch, 2021. And I mean, you see so many ships up there. You're just like,
Yep.
oh, time to go to bed. Like I'll see you all tomorrow. Like there's so many. But it was the Sasquatch moment. And that's when I had a friend who was working there, volunteering there, and I told her about my childhood experience in the same kind of area. I mean, they're just by the Columbia Gorge. And this was a little further, but general vicinity. And so I told her, and I go, wouldn't it be neat, to meet their family, or are they still up here? And she's like, they're all over the place, And she goes, just start thinking about it. And then she's intuitive and things. And so when we're leaving Skywatch to go to our cabin, she kind of tugged me and she goes, Heidi, you should go around that way to go to your cabin. And I'm like, should I? I go, I know what you're trying to do. And she goes, I'm just saying, maybe it's time. So I'm like walking with this mantra, like I'm ready, no fear, and all is well, and in the heart, and all this. And then I turned the corner, and I kid you not, I felt a presence that was so grand and so big. And my hair started to go up and everything went euphoric, and I chickened out. And then I went, shoot, and I ran into the cabin. And I went to the window, the door is a glass window, and I opened the curtain. I went, I'm sorry. I thought I was ready. I'm just not ready. I love you too. And I was still like goosebumpy and stuff. But that night I could hear this like whoop, 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 like all these little sounds. And my little roommate, she wasn't hearing a thing. And it would happen. I go, right then, did you hear what I just heard? She's like, I don't hear anything. So I was like, oh, it was for me. So
Yep,
that
just for
was a
you.
callback. I think it was. And again, it wasn't any fear. And I had already had these fearful stories of even the cryptid. This felt more Earth Guardian. This felt more. And I think James at the time was even telling me that that it's like the teenage energy. When you have a contact with one, it's like the teenagers popping into the dimension with a high vibrational human to give them that little, yeah, we're here. Hey, I know you're going to appreciate me. You see me. And so I really felt blessed. And then the last callback was for 2022. I was in Grafton, Illinois for the first Journey to Truth gathering. And I got there early before the conference with two others. And we're gridding the place, we're blessing it. We're doing all these things. And they had experience with a Sasquatch family. They were touching trees and having these moments. We saw a craft, these little things. But it was day 3 maybe. And I'm really starting to go within and just process. And, it was really, heavy. It's a lot of work too. You're doing a lot of work there internally and everything. But I'm I knew it was time to take care of myself a little bit. I've been giving so much energy. So I'm I'm going to have alone time in my cabin tonight. And I'm walking the cabin and I just having these memories flood me from my backyard with the orbs and the pixies and stuff. And I'm I go, because someone told me when they saw me, they ran into me and they're like, you're a flower fairy, aren't you? And I'm like, I don't know. That's what they say. You could maybe. So it was kind of in my head. And then I'm am I somebody? Everybody wants to be somebody.
Right.
So I'm like me. So I'm am I? And I don't know. But I was just thinking about it. And I kid you not, I get to my cabin and it's dark, but it's not middle of the night or anything. It's I really stepped away from the social activity to just ground a little bit. And I opened my cabin door and it's Orb City. It was and I went first I'm wait, and I was doing that. I'm and I'm is this for me? And I'm and I did my whole thing again. I'm giggling. And that reaction again, my skin on end, my goosebumps, my heart, my euphoric. And then I started going, thank you so much. Is this for me? I believe you. I see you. I'm here. I believe, And then I was teasing. I was a little sassy. I'm but I want to take a bath. Are you going to be here? And everything went out the window. I was
Ah.
like, "Ah, my little human is like ruins every moment."
Ah,
But I was bawling. I was like releasing so much in a good, happy way that it was like, I'm like, you can't deny this shit. Like I mean, years of sobriety, I'm like, I cannot deny these experiences. This
Mhm.
happened. And then I started to really go from the past to the present. What are these connections? And I understood that when things were dormant, when I was like partying like a rock star, so like you don't have those experiences as much.
right,
And I just felt like it was this gentle reminder of we're still here, we're still part of this, you're a part of this, here we are. But I always felt the only terror or the only times where I was like, I don't feel safe, I feel threatened, were those early teen time in Wisconsin. And
right,
a big chunk of me, that's when I told you I wasn't fully diving into the SSP and the hybrid and all that stuff, because I think there's a connection. And I think there's the connection of the military side and experimental side and the off-planet trade and, the dark
right.
stuff. So I
Mhm.
think maybe all the light stuff that happened to me, maybe they've been protecting. Maybe gave me those moments again in my adult life to be like, stay in this part. Don't go down that way yet, because this is where you can do big work. Because sure enough, I left that conference, and I did some really big pivots in my life. That's when I started teaching again. That's where I started working with kids,
Mhm.
and they go around my little classroom making little fairy portals and talking about this stuff. So I think I found that niche based on the
Well,
positive experiences.
well,
That was a big run. Okay, go
you
ahead.
brought that up about being a flower fairy, and your personality, you're bubbly and you're upbeat. I can just see that. I can see that connection.
It
So
Yeah.
resonates.
maybe as you were a child, maybe that's why you were having the orbs and the fairies around you.
I wouldn't put it
Like a
past.
protection and keep you safe and keep your mind off of what was going on with your parents.
Mm.
Yeah, it could. I really think that resonates. And sure enough, it turned me into this. I got obsessed with that imagery too. Of
Mm.
course, all little girls, pixies and unicorns and things, but even in my adult life, like my daughter's nursery was like fairies. And that world. I also have a Hopi Indians made me a few gifts that they
Mm.
said, we're called to give you this for, we see you're pregnant. This is for, I shouldn't say that. It was a second degree. My friend was with on the Hopi reservation having this journey and this experience, and she brought it back, and she goes, I don't know how they knew I had a friend who's pregnant with a child, but I'm supposed to give you this. And I
Oh,
got
Wow.
those Kachina dolls. I have to tell Dustin about that Kachina dolls. And I looked at it, and I already done my nursery, and it was all the colors. Like it was all like like matched. And I'm
Mm.
like, I felt very like, oh, like that was a very spiritual thing. I think it's somewhere still in my daughter's new room, but yeah, those kind of little bits always bring me back to that child of feeling safe and secure and one with the woods and the land. Same thing in Grafton. I'm just in the backwoods, and I feel like not necessarily loss of time, but almost like time stood still.
Mm.
And that was happening a couple times. And that's how I recharge. I'll escape. I'll go to like those places, and I just feel myself recalibrate.
right.
And so
So
yeah, I've been. Mhm, mhm.
as we go back and talk about your childhood, do you think this was hereditary? Did your mom experience all this from her childhood too, or just when she was out on that lake seeing the moving lights?
She when we were in Oregon and things were a little difficult, she was having, well, I should say it even before then. She always was drawn to the Theosophical societies and this kind of thought process. But as a young girl and going through high school, she thought she was going to be a nun. She was
Oh, wow.
raised she was raised like a staunch Catholic, but she had this like, do I go this route or do I go this route? She had this confliction going on. So when she married my dad and we were moving around, she left her family to move around with him and move around with the family. And she sought solace in those like theosophical kind of books and societies and things. And she said it became something that just came over her that she couldn't stop digesting info. She even had a book fall on her head. Like by the third time, she's like, okay, what is this? And she's going to kill me if I get it wrong. It's either Course in Miracles or Joel Goldsmith, or it was a big one, or Urantia maybe. It was a big one. And she's like, all right, I'll read it. And then she was up for days. Like she couldn't stop. So she had this drive to find out this information. And so as far as her childhood, there's something there. I know her parent, I've made little connections myself when I dig into it. I think there was a lot of dark versus light in both of our childhoods. And I think she went through a lot of that too. So maybe there's a lot of protection there. But if you meet her and my aunts, she's got a little elemental fairy look to her too. And my grandma too, who just passed, but she told herself she was done. She was drinking martinis and dancing at 101. And then she's like, I'm out. And then after she fell and hurt herself, and then sure enough, she was out like 3 months later. Like the mind is everything. But ageless, like she had this ageless look to her. And my mom does too, kind of. So my sister had never comes forward with these kind of conversations, but she's interested in it now. Like she's doesn't deep dive like I do. She's all about, finding your inner peace, and she doesn't poo-poo it at all. She's in Wisconsin in the same area, has a successful business, and she entertains the UFO communities. Aaron, if you're still here, he's been to her happy hour, UFO happy hour. and she knows it's a hot spot, but she doesn't have the stories to say. She understands that this isn't all there is, like this little life here. So with my mom, with her, I don't know what she never expressed. She just told me that chunk of time she was obsessed with finding information out, and then these weird things were happening to her. And then it coincides with my experience. So I'm like, Mom, don't you think that's related? Were you calling them in and they're just like, oh, we'll take the little one. Like, I don't know. But I don't know.
So did you have the tingly sensations and the resonance from early childhood? Did you experience that also when things were happening?
That was with that sighting, the Bigfoot sighting. That was the first time I was like, what? Kind of like the chilly bumps and the hair on end.
Right.
And that's when I was told and when I was taught, that's you distinguish, fact from fiction. Oh, that was experience. That was a frequency. That was an energy exchange. And that's the haunting part, and in a good way, not in a scary haunting.
Right.
But like, I'll never forget that. Like, just like if you're watching a busy street and lots of people walking and it's distant, no one can hear you, no one really sees you, but that one person turns and looks at you, it's creepy. It's like, how they see me? That's what it felt like. It was like, what, me? Like, what? And then it keeps going. And I'm like, oh, okay. Cause it just felt back and forth. Like a whop of energy, and then I gave it right back. Like, whoa!
Every time I hear stories like that, I always revert back to watching the Doors movie where Jim Morrison saw the accident when the Indian spirit went into him and they had that eye contact.
Oh gosh, good.
I always revert back to that scene because it's so powerful. That scene.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's what it resonates with, and that's why too. When I was having that. Such an energy exchange, when it was scary and when I felt not safe, even in my own room, in my own bed, I was trying not, I was doing everything to not, like I would I still sleep like that. I put a pillow here, you can ask my giant, and I put my covers up to here. So it's just, this is looking, and I'm like, cause I'm like, if they can't see me, they can't interact, kind of like, I don't see anything, but I'll haunted by the just figures. And then it would be especially the paralysis mixed with white lightning. And I didn't know about that term till my later either, like till my 30s, early 40s, about the sleep paralysis, white light and all that. I just thought that was what was just weirdly happening. But it would be me waking up in the morning saying, well, that was a weird storm, and my family going, there was no storm. It was a perfectly starry night. And I remember flashes and, oh, I forgot a really special one though. and that was in this chunk of time that's happening in Wisconsin that's bad. When we went back to Illinois, I did have an experience in Illinois, and this is the suburbs of Chicago. And I was a very busy kid, average student, but busy in school, like dance team and theater. And I had so much fun with all our activities. So I was a good sleeper. I was really tired. But there was one night that I had a trundle bed, and I found myself waking up, but I'm looking at the ground. It's like this far from me, and I'm being like lifted up and putting back in my bed. And I remember that. And the thing that got me the most is it was like a half sleep thing. I wasn't I was in motion, but I wasn't pushing myself up. I was just like floating. But I remember my room was full of blue light, like blue and white light. And it stemmed from almost like I'm looking at a ring light, almost like one head, or like a head, a head of a brightness, and then the flowing out. And I just remember being at peace. And I kept saying here, I was like, oh, thank you. Thanks for putting me back in bed. But I don't know what was the before. I don't know how I got there. I don't know if I was just falling and I like, oh, she's falling out of bed. Everyone get her or stop her. Or was it like, we got to put her back? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've gone under one session of QHHT, and we didn't go to those parts. I wound up healing more of my 3D reality in that session, like my dad passing and these broken relationships. Like I didn't get that far. Someone said you go a little deeper and start finding out that stuff. And then that little elemental in me is like, enjoy right now. Like maybe you're not ready to unlock that yet. So, and I have a feeling that has a lot to do with being a mom right now. And I'm pointing like they're right next to me, but being a mom, because my son, who's 10 now, when he was a baby, he was having those scary night times like I was having as an early teen. Like he was having almost like a paralysis. I couldn't wake him up. He was having just screaming fits at night. And then before he could kind of really vocalize, he would talk about the lizards in his room. He would talk about, he would get scared all of a sudden, and he'd try to describe it in his own baby kind of toddler way of like something scaring me. And like, he would always call out alligators and lizards and like reptile-y stuff. And then the worst was an image of him running to me. We were in a tiny apartment yelling that when he was talking more, he goes, it's like a turtle without a shell, and he's crawling towards me. And I was just, and at that time when he was a toddler, I was drinking a lot. And then I was like, I'm calling this, and then I really started deep diving. But and that same times, even when he was younger, though, he also saw my grandpa who passed, who he was named after. So he had really cute experiences too. And that I know for a fact, because it was one night that I couldn't get him to sleep. He wasn't having the screaming night. He just wasn't sleeping. He also was tongue-tied. So he was always hungry. And like we had a lot of situations with that, but I was very distressed, and he was in my room, and I had my daughter in the other room sleepy. So I'm just like trying to get him down. And I had a big dresser with a mirror, which now I know how you have to protect your mirrors if you have too many mirrors. Yeah. So I had this one big mirror, and I remember him from screaming fit and me literally turning right into like giggling. And I was like, oh, he's possessed. Like, I was like, what happened? Like, this is weird. What's going on? This is crazy. And he's looking at me and pointing at the mirror, and he's going, and then he's laughing and looking in the mirror going, and then he's hitting me here. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I start bawling, because he's named after my grandpa Huck, who had this big jowl right here. And he used to go and make it shake to make all the grandkids laugh. And then so Huck started, my Huck was laughing so hard he fell asleep in my arms. And then I went to my knees. I was like, thank you, Grandpa. Like, just help me put him to sleep. They never met. He passed right when I was out of high school. And so I was like, that was a crazy cool moment of him seeing through the veil. Talk about piercing the veil.
Yeah.
My little man's doing it too. So there's the generational thing, I think, So that's kind of, yeah. That was a goodie. They're all coming back now. All my stories.
So let's go back to the beginning and talk about your fairies and pixies and orbs. Now, did you see different ones, or was it just like one that you saw, or was it like a little village, or did they all look different?
There was a consistency with like an orb, like more of the sensation of a goldenish orby thing. As
Mm.
far as them seeing them, I never quite had anyone in my hand or could see bodies or make eye contact or any of that. It's just like I knew they were there. Like one
Right.
of those, like they're just here, because then I'd have those same visceral reactions when I'd see like a movie, or there's a cartoon, or there was this really cool like 80s movie. I can't remember what it was, but one came on the screen and I just started weeping. And I have reactions to movies. E.T. was a big one too. I like projectile vomited and I was like 13 or 14 in the movie theater. That was creepy. But I have these reactions to things. And with those, I always felt like I'm home, like, oh, like I whenever I see like what Hollywood makes as a fairy. Tinkerbell, I didn't care so much about,
Right.
Yeah.
but it was more like being out there and really being protective of being outside, like being very protective, like crying over trees that are cut. Like I still do that,
Mm.
you
Yep.
know, and it's like I
Mhm.
feel it crying, or I'm like, oh, I put my hands on it and you could feel the energy. So I was really cognizant of what I was doing out there and trying to be careful everywhere. And if I ever made myself a space, I made extra little spaces for any for the visitors or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't recall. The only thing I keep flashing back to is when I'd later decorate my rooms and have these little books of um, flower fairies and these fun names and stuff. In fact, I started collaging them, and they still have them in their room of my old books, collaging fairies and stuff for them. Those were they're just very cute, like 1950s looking kind of thing. Um, but I can't recall like one flying up and looking at it and being like, wow, I can
Right.
see the outline of you. It was more of just a light, like a pixelated light that
Mm.
was moving.
Yeah, we have that too. We know their presence. We haven't physically seen one. We just feel
Right.
the vibrations and frequencies, and it resonates so heavily, especially with Jane. Jane connects with them all the time. It's just
Yeah.
Aw, I'm
you
not
just
surprised.
know what you know.
Yeah. You know when
Mhm.
you know, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
the way you react. It's your body
Right.
Right.
reacting to it. And it's like, okay. Sometimes you can't even put it to words. It's like, I just know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't describe it. Right.
Right. Yep. And that's
That
why
all
too.
makes
Yeah.
sense. That
Mhm.
that you're I'm gonna guess this, like we talked about before, a flower fairy, that you're connected with the elementals. So obviously you have a connection. Like you said, you could feel the vibration and frequencies from the trees and how they were feeling, and the fairies are there and the orbs.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I just resonate that I think you have that connection. And like we always say, everything is always connected.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. I feel that big time. And then I'm not surprised that in my today life, my classroom with these kids is outside. We're at an actual a brick and mortar place, but I'm the only one that's outside. And I'm like, and it's my first year lead is that. Last year I was inside, but this I took the lead, and like, you're going to be out on the hill. I'm like, oh, that
Mm.
adds another element. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now I get to teach them. And the nice thing is most children have respect for nature. Like they will respect the ground they walk on if
Yeah.
you can hold that frequency with them. And so these kids find this place for a reason. So they're already pretty much in tune. And even one of our first few weeks, I made us have this special way we go in so that we have a long walkway to go up to it. So it feels like you're going through a forest or something, and it's just the way I laid it out. And one little boy's like, I feel like we stepped through the portal to school. And he's like, woo. And I'm like, I love that you know what a portal is. And then another kid, her mom gifted the class a whole box of beautiful crystals. And so
Ooh.
we spent a main lesson like gridding the class area, and then they each buried one right under their desk. They have these beautiful handmade wooden desks, and right on the dirt, right in the ground. And so they have one underneath them all the time. Some
Oh,
usually it'll randomly kick up, and they'll be like, oh no. And I'm like, go ahead, take your time, put it back, whatever you got to do. And so it's like now I get to share that elemental thing with kids who are just some of the highest frequencies out there. We have one boy that I love sharing this. Speaking of frequency, and I hope it's not too off topic, but he came to us with his light off. You know, I felt like he was medically overrun and jabbed, like he had the fog. He didn't make eye
Mhm.
contact, no eye contact, can barely spell. And he's like almost 10, you know, like but his family was like, no one will take him. And we don't want him to be labeled and put in the system. And we thought nothing of it. We're like, he's part of the class. There's nothing special there. That boy is like smiling for pictures now, looking in cameras. Every morning I greet them and shake hands, and I have some sort of little energy exchange with each kid. And from the first day, he could, his eyes fluttered. He couldn't lift them like to look at you. And now he's sometimes here, but he's up. And I'm like, he's coming around.
Wow, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah. And I think being outside is helping him heal too. So it's
Right.
a really special place to, you know, I see why my journey has taken me where it has. I also had
Mhm.
30 years in motion picture, you know, like, and now I'm teaching outside for like 100th of the pay
Yeah.
with kids. But I'm like, I'm doing the work. I feel like I'm
Right.
doing what I should be doing. So
Now, do
it's
you
kinda
guys
cool.
do any grounding sessions? You have the kids take off their shoes and stuff and actually feel and ground and
Sure.
vibrations and frequencies?
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because there was the shoes. We have to do that more, but there was a little boy who does it automatically, and he sits under his desk, and so we let him sit at his desk like that. And but we do start our day, you know, circle time, and we'll do like
Mhm.
a pass the clap, or I have these little activities, and my goal is to get us to make the frequency feel good when you hear it, because sometimes they're like goofy and they're all doing. I go, but when it hits the right one, it's like a gong or something. It feels really cool. I'm like, let's try for that. So we all get in sync, and then we do some scalar toning that I was picked up from Matthew Mornian. And you know, we'll
Yeah.
take the big breaths, and then we'll chant. We'll do a few of those, and I do have different instruments that make different tones. So for different aspects of the day, but also just to bring us back to one kind of thing. And oh yeah, they're all into it. The breath work, they're into that. And then they're just good old kids sometimes with ants in their pants. So I'm like, let's go to the backfield and just run.
Right.
Let's start running. And they're just like running and running. It's a great space.
Now, do you ever play any binaural music or anything? Anything for frequencies for them, either napping or eating or whatever?
Well, we don't have I have more of the instruments for that. I guess I could over my phone, but they want it like we tuck the phones away. I mean, I'll sneak pictures and
Right.
stuff, but we don't have power. I don't have any electricity
All
out
right.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
more, I have a really cool drum. That same boy, by the way, that's, you know, the fog is lifting. One of the
Mhm.
other educators, this really sweet man in early childhood, he does the Jakara drums at recess. And he's almost Asperger, like he's on the spectrum. He's brilliant man, but socially, you know, he works with this drum. He was watching our exchange with this little boy, and he offered him his little drum, and he goes, try this, because the boy won't like sit and do the work, but he always wants to help. So we give him tasks, so he feels like he's always accomplishing things, and he's a
Right.
very good helper. So when he takes his moments, you can see him, he doesn't know what to do with his body. We're like, why don't you go get your drum for a little while, we could use some music. And then
Mm.
I'll always, or if we just, I hear the class having a moment, I'll look at him, I'll go, hey pal, I go, bring up the beat. And he's like, you got it, Miss Heidi. And he goes and gets his drum, and he starts drumming. And then the class knows, like, oh, okay. And they get back to work. You know, like it's pretty sound and frequency. Yeah, that's been a thread through the whole conversation of the class. We started early in the year with that, and then by the holidays we're talking about illumination and lighting up from within and sharing your frequency with someone else. And what does that feel
Right.
like? Did that feel
Mm.
like a good one, or did you get goosebumps? And you know, like, you're sharing all these little experiences. So they're very sweet with one another. It's like, usually, you know, you can get cliques in a class. This is like one unit. They're a good
Well, I was
class.
going to ask, is there anybody whose frequencies clash with each other, or is there some that actually gravitate towards each other, and then you just feel the energy connect with all of them?
You do. There's two that I'm thinking of right now that are total flower fairies, and they even whisper to me and write me little notes. They're like, "Is this a fairy school?" And I'm just like, I just wait. I'm like, shh. And they're like, but they're so into it. I'm like, and you know, it's so cute. There's the ones that clash, it's usually because they're so alike and they just don't know how to do it. And so we try to find the common ground. We just get them back in the heart. What is something that will get their hearts clicking? And that's when we do a group activity or something wherever they feel a feeling of accomplishment, they usually get in the heart because they're like a proud moment. We have one conflict, student, you could say, that the trouble kind of kid, but I've been not only witness, I know the family and I know what he's going through. And it just comes from that. They've been divorcing,
Right.
they moved. So I'm like, of course, he doesn't know where to put his energy. So we
Right.
really individualize. I have a beautiful, beautiful assistant. She's a mom too. And we really hold these children really close and just honor what they go through it every day. There's no sit still and be quiet. It's like how to be your best self is the goal
Right.
of the class. And
Yeah.
so when trouble kids come around, I'll immediately go to them and I'll go, is it okay if I give you a hug? And they'll be like, I don't want to, Miss Heidi. I'm like, okay. And I go, how was your breakfast? And then I'll just like ask things to figure out what happened.
Right.
And then I'll try to connect with them. They're like, oh,
Mhm.
that happened to me once. I had a dinner once that I did not want to eat. And so I went to bed hungry and I did not sleep good. Did that happen to you? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, so then they feel heard and then they're like back in the heart. And so, because children, they're reacting to the frequencies around them. So if the kids come in a little jacked up, my sister and I are like, ooh, what happened at home? Or
Right.
what happened? And then we try to make it as peaceful and fun and an exciting place to be. It's very hands-on, tactical, practical skills kind of experience. And for that, I'm grateful because I think that's what education should be. That's how you learn, by
Yeah.
doing and playing and being led and guided by someone who also is learning and playing. And, they check me all the time, especially if I misspell something. I never hear the end of it. But I tell them, I go, I am human too, or part human. I don't know, but I
Part
make
human.
mistakes. Yeah. So they're really just really little angels on earth.
Yeah, I would imagine every once in a while, I mean, you almost have to do like a spiritual detox or a chakra detox, and get them all back on an even keel before you can raise their vibrations and get them going again.
Yes. Yeah, that's where we'll try to start the day physically, like doing some physical out breaths, get them like panting a little bit before we like hone it in. And or if like we have an event, like there is a little birthday celebration and we honor the birthday child all day, and they'll bring an offering in for the class. And most of the families are pretty clean and organic, and it's fine, but still if there's a sugary treat, they're going to respond. So we'll just re-coordinate the day and do some more physical
Right.
activity after and run it out of the system. And yeah, I don't know what we're going to do next year. I think they're going to put us in a classroom and I think we'll all be like, oh, let's go outside. That's the thing. This particular class that I stepped in to lead, I'm going to be with them till 8th grade. I'm the same teacher each year. So
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Well, that's
it's really
nice.
special. It's special. My daughter's going to graduate next year from 8th grade, and she's had that same teacher. So it's a really special bond you should have with your educator. And
Wow.
I remember back when I was a kid, every hour you had a different teacher throughout the day. It just
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's no connection. There's not a lot of connections. So yeah,
Yeah.
a
So
little all over the place. I'm sharing
during
it all.
during your life, where do you want to go next? So we talked about your fairies and your orbs. So I don't know if you want to go to your scary section or you want to go to your Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, the scary thing is a trip. So maybe anyone in the chat has any hits on it, but why it is scary is the relating it to my mom in that time, and then having read communion, I started to put together the shadow being side of things, and maybe this wasn't a good contact or connection, and then the whys of it all. But as far as with her, she had that experience of the placenta being there and then gone, and like
Mm.
a baby forming, and then all of a sudden gifted a child down the road after doctor said she couldn't have kids. Like those kind of the hybrid program is something I wanted to look into because it's DNA related, and that would make sense on the lineage, like going through our DNAs. that is a mystery, something I started to unpack. And that's when I was telling you before I felt targeted. And I'm like,
Mm.
Right.
okay, it's not a safe community to explore this with. So I just remember those are the days that, I spent still a lot of alone time too, which I always preferred, but I spent a lot of time on the water, and being like a water baby, my sister and I both swimming. And since we were tiny, and water skiing and jet skiing, all that stuff. But if I landed in the water or I was underwater, I felt like that bum rush of energy. Like
Mm.
Oh,
it felt like a whole nother world under Lake Michigan. So I had this weird love hate with it too. Like it was like, and it's not just Jaws that did it. It was more like, there's something going on under there. I think it's just
right.
feeling that frequency shift. But so I would play on top of the water, but under the water was crazy. So when I'd lay on my pier, or I read books all the time, I was laying out on the pier, there would be those moments of where time just felt still. And it was now as an adult, I'm watching like videos and Hollywood movies and stuff. I'm like, that's when context made. So I'm like, oh, geez, how often was this happening? And was it in daylight? It wasn't just in nighttime, or, like I really think back to that time of being there. And ironically enough, my sister's still there, not in that same house though. And so when I was back there this summer, I didn't pick up on really anything. So
Mm.
Okay.
I was waiting to do that. I was waiting to go to our old kind of stomping grounds and what would happen. I think we also, my whole family, we were just in our heads a lot. We're worried about our pets at home. Like, I don't know if I was distracted, but it wasn't making the same reactions, I guess, of what was happening there. I'm going to try to, next time I do get there, is host a little gathering and just see if,
Oh,
can get
right.
something brewing, I guess, because
Yeah.
so many more people come forward. It's such a hot spot up there. And a lot more people come forward saying, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Or I saw a ship, or, it's like, what's going on here? So
Mm.
I think that particular area, I find the Pacific Northwest so sacred. It's like ancient grounds. I know everywhere is, but it's protected by those trees and mountains and the guardians, and it just feels more sacred. Whereas something about that peninsula, it's like the intergalactic military and the slave trade, or I don't know. It's
Huh.
this whole peninsula. So I'm like, this is just a perfect landing strip.
Mm.
So I don't know what's going on over there. Uh,
Maybe you and water is the elemental connection, because there's sprites and energy in water. So maybe they had that connection with you and you felt different because of that.
You're
Mhm.
right. Yeah. Again, it's probably everything's perspective, right? Because it was, it could very well be. It's just picking up on all that energy.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Later in life, that's when I, started to think of, okay, it's not such a bad thing to feel all this stuff. I was a deathly shy child in public with other people. Like I felt everybody. And so if someone, like my mom would say, it was uncomfortable to bring me to gatherings because if someone would talk to me, I'd cry. Like, or I'd be like, I don't know what to say. Or heaven forbid, they asked me to like phone in the order for pizza or something. I still don't even like talking on the phone, but here I am like doing this stuff. So, and I went
Right.
into acting and like improv and comedy, and it's like I broke free from that. And now I'm like, oh, I can't stop talking.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's something just about humanity at that time, maybe in that era too, that, this darkness. Maybe if they're, I still pick up that here. And when I'm in motion picture or was in motion picture, I would pick up on that, who had this dark energy about him and who had a light energy about him,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Once
Mm.
you open up that door, once you're attuned to all this stuff, I mean, you don't
Mhm.
really have to be a full empath to feel all this negativity or the good spirits or anything. I mean, you, your body will react for you. You don't even have to even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And now I get to teach kids to pay attention to that. Pay
Yeah.
Yeah.
attention to how you react when you meet somebody, or yeah, and or run into anything, a strange object. Like, well, how does it make you feel? Go with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
oh
Well,
yeah, I see you there, Aaron.
when you were
Mhm.
acting, there's all kinds of paranormal stories that you hear, like on stage and stuff. Did you experience anything strange
Oh,
during
for sure.
filming?
The stages for sure. My first, so it was about 30 or first 15 years, which was in Chicago too. Oh, the lights were as big as cars. Holy smokes. Yeah, Aaron is right by my sister. They're like 2
Oh,
miles from each
Oh,
other.
wow.
So he's in my old roots, where my dad was born and everything. All my siblings and I were all conceived up there too. And so my parents didn't live there. They would just always honeymoon up there. And lo and behold, all of my siblings and I were conceived. So I feel there's something there. As far as so with Hollywood, the first 15 years, I was in front of the camera. It started at
okay.
15 in Chicago, and I was with Ford in Chicago. So I did a lot of print and like industrials, like McDonald's commercials, or like in-house, industrials for like Sears or Sears catalog, that kind of stuff. And Chicago is a very advertising kind of town. So I was doing some stage, and that's why I went to DePaul. I went to the theater, got auditioned and got into the theater program, but I switched out and went into education. So because I wasn't aligning with the hippies in the theater at the time. Now I'm full-fledged hippie. But I'm like, they just do yoga and get stoned all day. I don't want to do that. And now I do. So so I switched into education just to have that in my back pocket kind of thing. But I was very active whenever a show came through town, a movie. I was always an extra. I went to the Piven School in Evanston. So I was really like, it was a conservatory. Like I was really still trying to hone in on everything. And that's what eventually moved me out here in 2000. I was part-time teaching again. But I'm like, if I left an engagement, if I'm like, I really got to follow this dream, and I had this pull to go back west. And so I became a working actor. And the thing that, I hit 30 something, and you do hit that age. So I stopped getting calls. So I'm like, ugh. But I was obsessed with it still. And my friend got me into craft service. So I'm basically the snack girl. So I wound up becoming part of the crew behind the camera. And I really blissed out. I felt of service to people. I was really into like healthy food choices. And I got to explore. I didn't feel like a product. Like I felt like of use. And I got to work with everyone I've ever wanted to work with, like food directors and everything. And they respected me for it. And so I had a good time. But my point being in craft service, I wandered a lot. So like I would serve, but I'd also had a lot of downtime. And on those old Hollywood lots, and even the first one I worked at, Sunset Gower Studios, I was a PA on that lot. I would explore the hell out of it, like all the crevices, all the like closed doors. I would go in, all the stairwells, and there were some areas that just creeped you out. You get that bum rush of
I bet.
cold. Yeah, it was like just freezing cold, and then you walk 5 steps and it's normal, and you're like, okay, there's somebody here. And it depends on what lot. Warner Brothers is pretty creepy too. I got lost out trying to leave that in the middle of the night. And at the time, I think I had one of the early smartphones. This was years ago, and I got this app of communicating with ghosts or something. So you'd have the app on, and then a thing would pop up and say words, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded!" I couldn't get out. That would happen, and then you just run into someone on a lot, and you'd have this exchange, and I'd walk away, and I'd be like, "I don't even think that was human." Like,
oh, wow.
It would be like,
wow.
They'd either just be like vacant or like too into you, like just their energy field was so much, and then you can't find them again. And then, or I'd work with the super dark, crazy ones that you're like, okay, this is a walking demon. Like there's this, they're part of that club, which is a very small club when you really look at Hollywood and stuff, and everyone's like, it's full of, the blood drinking, and everybody's part of the club. And it's like, not totally. And it's a lot of the puppet masters are like the agency and client, and the ones behind the scene you don't see a lot unless they're shooting.
Right.
And then they all come in, and then you walk by and you're like, whoa, like the handlers. That's when you're like, and have to like cleanse after. And like, so those.
I didn't realize you were in front of the camera. Since I've met you, I've seen you, on Facebook and stuff. I saw you like your Betty White, story of being in the craft service. I didn't know you were actually in front of the camera.
I was. Really fun little things. I think one of the names that people would know a lot, like I'm Googleable or IMDbable or whatever it is, but a lot of indies. My obsession was indies. I really wanted to go to like Sundance, but I wound up at Slam Dance. But we did win awards at Slam Dance. It's like the mock off of Sundance.
Right.
Always on these, and I did a lot of work with, that's my Lawrence, who I do kids health with. That's how we met. We did films in Chicago, like these just little indies that you send around to short film fests. And we were like, I loved the passion behind the creation of it. So that's why I fell in love with crew. But when the on camera, I mean, the biggest bits were probably the print, of getting like, or Mattel. I think if Aaron's still here, I told him, 1999, I was Barbie for president. And so I went to the big Chicago, the McCormick, the big toy convention, and I
Right.
cut the ribbon and I was dressed as like Barbie for president. And, I still got like royalties and checks from Mattel. And, those kind of gigs those were fun. But like I did dance with Martin Short on Jiminy Glick. I had a moment
Cool.
on Jiminy Glick. I auditioned for Mad TV. I didn't get that, but I really liked comedy improv. And then there's some music videos, like just random things. And that could give you making a living. What, Charlie? Oh, sorry, my daughter's like,
That's all right.
she got it. And I'm sure, I'll have to pull up some fun stuff. What was some of the, I'm like, what is it? Well, 976 Large was fun. That was the one that won awards at Slam Dance. But I tell you, 30 something, it was like what came down to was I had a callback, like my second callback for a Royal Caribbean job. And it was called a national. So then you'd get a really good chunk of money and residuals and everything. But it was like a what if. And then I met the team of Rob Schneider's team. Rob Schneider?
Yep.
He's a sweet pea. And I had only shadowed a friend of mine on craft service for a while, but basically his team had like a couple movies coming up and they offered me a bundle to be the crafty lead and build a team and build my equipment. And it really gave me an opportunity of like, I had guaranteed 3 months of income plus I could invest in a new business or a what if commercial on, because I would have missed the beginning of the movie and they wanted the commitment. And I chose the movie and I wound up having time of my life. The girl that booked the Royal Caribbean, I even knew, and she said it was a horrible shoot. So I felt good about that. And from that day, I think it was, 35. I think I was almost 30. I was all referral for 15 years. I never looked for work. It was, you get Heidi. And then I got to the point that I started cloning myself. I started training people and building equipment for them to go out. So I get rental fees and referral fees. And we started getting big stuff like American Music Awards and the Daytime Emmys and the green rooms and parties at houses. And so I was living my best life. And it was honestly 2009 was one of my biggest years. And that's when it was like, boom. And then I got pregnant. But you know what? I didn't stop. I still, all the girls that worked for me, they are supporting me, like we turned it into, I was down for a while, but because I built this, it's happened for a reason. I built this little empire thing. So all my rentals supported me when I was down having my 2 kids. So I was still running a business. So I could pop in at any time. And for the last couple years, I got to the point where I sent people out. Actually, I sent people out and got the referral, but I worked with who I wanted to work with. So you just rolled around with the same commercial team all the time. And it became like family, so much fun. And then I was known as Craftspiracy. And then I talk about like how to heal from the chemtrail and how to like detox. And did you know that, who's on set today? Oh, they eat babies. Like I was like, I was red pilling like it's hot. But I got so obsessed with it that then people didn't want to, my team was like, you're embarrassing us. Like, we don't want to work with you. And they cut me off. So I was like, that's fine. I can't stop truthing. So I just kept going. And then lockdown, that was my lockdown. 2020 was my last job. And so, then it all shifted back to, well, here's my kids. Oh yeah, I could teach. So I went into that.
Now, what kind of experiences or paranormal or anything was going on during that time period, right when you're doing your craft service? Anything?
Well, those were the experiences like on set or just, having to balance out those energies with people or Are they on the good side or on the dark side? I had a really big round before my kids. When I was working, I was also managing at a comedy club, Improv Olympic. A lot of us did. Like I had certain nights there. MTV Real World came through town, and they had 2 of their cast members came and worked for my craft service, and I had them in my outfits, like serving drinks, and like I thought I was like hitting the good times. And I wound up meeting and befriending, some A-listers. Like I would spend the holidays with Alanis Morissette and Ryan Reynolds. Like I was rolling, but I felt weird. Like I was someone's girlfriend. Like there was like no one really got to know
Okay.
Heidi. So, but what my point is I interacted with some of these people. So when the stories came around and I started learning about the underbelly, I'm like, I go, you can't categorize all of those people as being, have eaten babies. Like you just can't. Like that
Right.
I literally slept in the next room. I went on the tour bus. Like I was with them weeks on end. Like, and that's not that lifestyle. It's not everybody. So I kind of started then trying to interject all these storylines, going, no, I met that person, and you have to have the energy exchange to know they're not a demon. Their handlers might be, but that particular
Right.
person is a good person. And so, wait, what was my part with that? What was your question? I'm
I was
sitting
just
there name
asking what
dropping.
experiences you were having while you were doing the craft service,
Oh,
and you said that, basically what you just told
yeah.
us. That's fine.
Well, because some of those events too, you'd pick some of them out and be like, I don't want to have a conversation with them. Like they just feel, or they see through you. They couldn't even see you were there. And so you just learn to dodge and weave a lot of those people, and know, I had the art of, yes, and if you're working a big job, like I've shared before, that telethon I did, that Al Gore telethon, and oh my gosh, the Agent Smith, the Men in Black were all over the place.
Wow.
That was a job where I even felt like the sleep paralysis again, where I'm like, I wanted to talk and tell my assistant a story of someone who came in, and I'm like, just don't talk. Like I didn't feel safe. And
Wow.
so, and that place was swarming. And the funny thing is, it was a climate change telethon in like 2018 or 19. And we had horrible Argyle skies and yellow haze and everyone coughing. But they didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about the Honduras caravan and, all the
Right.
latest
Yep.
agendas. So, but I remember being on there and like, and I would say things under my breath to my assistant, like, well, their meat suit's fallen off, or, like, like they forgot to zip their tail in, or things like that. She'd be like, I'm like,
Do you
they're
have any
pretending they're vegan,
stories?
but they're cannibals.
Do you have any stories you could tell from celebrities? Did anybody share any paranormal or cryptid stories with you?
Mm, Not so much. They just mostly either shared their humanity or they didn't share at
Okay.
all. There's some
Right.
real
Okay.
pervy pigs out there. LeBron James, his posse stole all my stuff. I tell everybody that. And Katy Perry, I had a moment with her of because I did 3 jobs with her, and one, they said vegan and all these healthy things, and I got her all her stuff, and then she's hiding, eating all my beef jerky, and I'm like, I see you, and
Ah,
then she was curt, and then the next time I work with her, I'm like, that's not the same person. Like that
right.
would happen. I was like, no, she's not in there. And then the third time you work with her, I'm like, maybe she came back, but now it was a dark person. Like it wasn't, you can see the difference. And then
Yes.
there was a Britney thing where she just was a shell of herself. I feel so bad for that one. It's all her
Wow.
handlers, her teams. Like she ran out of there in wardrobe saying in our white little Mercedes, and I got to get to my kids. And they're like, she's in wardrobe. I'm like, that bitch didn't eat for 8 hours, mofos. They just made me give her tea. They wouldn't let me put anything else in her room. And they sewed her into her outfit, and then she ran out in it. Like I just felt so bad for her. And so
Wow.
many handlers. Yeah. So I mean, those kind of things. But again,
Yeah.
that's more of the stuff of like hybrid stories. You feel targeted.
Yeah.
I get the targets. So as someone used to say, even in 2020, when I went vocal again, they're like, you're going to get blacklisted. I'm like, you show me your blacklist, I'll show you mine. Like, there's so many of those out there.
So what did you get out of your Bigfoot experience? Let's retouch on your Bigfoot.
Mhm. Oh gosh. I I think it was that. I mean, of course I didn't know it at the time. I had to recall it later and really dissect it because it was so just a moment. But it was that energy exchange with a multidimensional being. Like
Mm.
that's the contact. And that's what they say that could be with the craft, with a Bigfoot, with a fairy, with
Right,
a dark or a light one. It's that exchange you have and what it does to you, because it's
Mhm.
unlike no other, unless you meet your person or your better half. It's kind of like that fall in love moment where you get the goosebump. There's this connection. You connect without
right,
saying anything. That happened with my giant and I. We just hit foreheads and it was like current, and it was like, what was that? But it was like, okay, I know you from somewhere and I'm supposed to know you. It's a your body reacts. So I think that was the coolest bit. But I tell you, the whole thing could have gone sideways and gone left if my mom wasn't supportive. I
Mm.
could have immediately said, no, you didn't, or it's your imagination, or,
right,
shush. And it would have been gone. I wouldn't have recalled it, or I wouldn't have, it just would I would have thought I did something wrong. The fear would have come in, something. But because everything happened for a reason in that sense, so I'm able to recall it and then work with kids today about it. So that was my biggest takeaway with that. Was I'm so grateful for it, because again, it was peaceful. I felt the land guardian relationship. I felt that there was a purpose for them, whether they were peeking in to give me that experience or not. Their presence, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, I know they're everywhere, but I was just like, thank you, thanks for
Mhm.
protecting this space. And I felt, now later, I was like, lucky. That's a pretty cool experience to have. And so that's why I feel like I'm a really good listener to kids. Just
did anybody else in the car see it, or was it only you?
no, this me, which was,
Wow.
still haunting too. And that's pre-gadget day. So
Right,
any car trip, you're staring out the window,
Yeah,
or
that's
some
me.
more. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And so that really, it's sacred because of that, I think. Because I went time and again, especially before, I think it was just a year ago around this time when I first started sharing a lot of stories. And I'm like, this could bury me,
Mhm.
especially even working with kids. I'm like, I'm just going to talk about ETs and alien stuff. Are you guys good with this? And it's more like activating others. They're like, it's kind of reminding me of something I saw once, and I'm like, oh, thank you. It's being received, because anyone, actually, I could say anything right now. I could say, you know, um, this this is not black. It's green. Anything. The people online, they want to fight, or they want to not believe you. They won't. Or
right.
anybody can find information that will support their perspective and their opinion. So when they come at you with something, I'm just like, that was my experience. I there's nothing else I can tell anybody other than that is my experience, and I'm sharing it with you. So you're welcome. they
We
can't
say
they
that
can
all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
we've had our experiences, we've had our feelings, or things resonate with us, but not everybody's experiences are the same. Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
I could have a Bigfoot experience, you could have one, Jane could have one, and we could sit here and talk to each other, but they would be different. They might not all be the same. They might not all look the same. You might not all got the same feeling from them. And it's the
Yeah.
same way across the whole thing, whether it's paranormal, cryptid, UFO, all that. I mean, so that's why when we have people on our shows, it says if you tell me the sky was brown, I'm going to listen to your story and see how that fits into anything I've ever experienced, or how the Bigfoot smelled or looked like, or what you felt during that time. And I'm going to take that in and say, okay, does any of these little pieces of the puzzle fit my experience, or does any of mine fit yours?
Mm.
Mhm.
There you go. That's why I love these communities. You get a little bit of everybody. And
Yeah.
um and then when I see the ones that do try to control the narrative, those are the ones I get a little shady about. I'm like, "Hey, why are you trying to muzzle up the ones speaking their truth and their experience?" That also makes me think of being younger, like the dark days in Wisconsin, or the 12, 13, 14. That was the days of like Dateline and 2020 and all those shows that were talking about people getting scoops cut out of them or little implants. But all I remember even thinking at that time was, how does that person in New York have the same experience as someone on the other side of the planet? Like they had the same story and they don't know each other. This before like computery stuff. I'm like, there's something to just someone's human experience and someone's story. And that's why I really started listening to the little guy and started to like say, you know, I have to contribute these things because it's going to make someone else share theirs then. And, you know, feel like heard or that they can. I did get a lot of people tell me, shh, you know, don't, what are you doing? You know? And that's when I'm like, well, I'll just make it my shtick and I'll turn it into an art form. That's why I like on set, I just got, you know, they're like, why are you talking about like cannibal clubs on set? I go, because I can, and it's all in the delivery because I said it and the actual one behind me didn't even hear me.
So Brian wants to know, what's your go-to crystals for protections and grids?
Good question.
You know, the ones that were gifted to our classroom were a bunch of selenite and white quartz. And that's what we put all around there. As far as here, I'm looking at right now, my giant gifted me last anniversary. I got an amethyst like this. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And that's like our entryway. So I'm like, there's a good house, you know, protection. And I'm always wearing something. He also gifted me for my little elopement set, a moonstone set. So a friend of ours who passed made them for us, but I have little moonstone set and the bracelet I lost. And so I do always have stuff on. And what's so cute is the kids in class gift each other. Where's my apple? We gift each other. Oh, it's up there. I have a big onyx apples a girl gifted me. I have blue apple-light or apple. I have different trinkets and necklaces, and they're all different forms of crystals. So the kids gift each other and me as their teacher, all of this stuff. So it's really cute. But as far as that, my kids have them scattered. We have shungite and organite. We have pyramids by our modem. Christina Lee Dobbs, I got some of her sets, and we did out the modems, and we each have one by our nightstands, by our beds. My son has a little extra, like some copper pyramids. And he's got these little magic balls and crystal balls and stuff, and even magnets, like the big balls of magnets. Like he's into crystals. He goes digging for fossils and goes whenever we go to like fairs or something. He's that's where he spends all his tickets doing stones and crystals. He's loaded in there. Black tourmaline. Yes, I actually was wearing it for my little breakfast with Jim Goodall, and I switched to my browns. I like colors, so I went my black then, and now I have my browns. But tourmaline for sure. I have that on my cell phone. Is like, I think that's like a tourmaline in there. The organite, shungite. Gosh, you name them.
Well, there's so many of them. They all have their different elements and what they do and what you use them for. And so, I mean, our whole house is full of them too, as you can see behind Jane, behind me.
Yep. I bet. Plus you have to have that energy exchange with your crystals. You know, you have to believe in that. Even my son last night before bed, he goes, "Isn't it a full moon?" I'm like, "You can put your crystals out if you want." I was already lazy in bed. I didn't do anything. I go, you can go, you can cleanse them if you want. You got to put that intent into it too. Someone was gifted me recently a beautiful stone. I keep looking like it's here, but I moved everything recent. And it's the intent of the stone. You know, it's the energy I put into it that makes it really special. I didn't feel the activation when I took it, but I certainly do now, having spent so much time with it. So there's that. And then, and circling back to the flowers, you know, I am that person. Whenever I go somewhere, I just go around my yard really clip. And I always bring offerings to houses. And that's when my gal pals here were like, "You're our little flower fairy." I'm like, just giving a little love. Even though we have an outdoor classroom, I still have little vases of flowers everywhere.
Now we're gonna build a big copper pyramid for us to sit in.
Nice.
Whether inside or outside, it's going to be able to take it apart and put it together.
Nice.
But what I really want to experiment with is this summer or spring, I'm going to take copper wire and have it under our bed sheets and then go outside and have it grounded to the ground while we sleep.
Yes, there you go. Aaron, I think you're still here. My buddy Aaron just had a live and he was scrolling and he saw a man did that with the copper sticks that went into the gardens.
Yes.
And the where it was in the garden was just like it flourished, grew like super times the size.
So you take
Hey,
that
that's
same
cool. I didn't think of
premise-
that with the sheets.
Yeah, you take the
Okay.
same premise and you take a little thin copper wire and you can put it through your windowsill or however you get it into your bedroom, and then you put it underneath your blankets and sheets, and it all connects to that ground wire, so you're grounding while you sleep.
Okay, that's awesome. There you go. Do it.
Crazy.
You guys have a great compound there. That's really sweet. How you don't need the heat lamps anymore for the goats, do you? Is it nice now at night, or does it dip? We dip. We're in the high desert, so we
down
dip.
low where they need them.
Okay.
They probably could survive without them, but we wait till it gets an even temperature at night. So
Yeah, the chickens still have theirs, but I turned the goats off. The only time I had them on is when we were below 0 for those few nights. So
Oh,
normally
okay.
they don't have the heat lamps.
Gotcha. Yeah, it dipped low for you guys. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We hit 30s. Once in a while, we'll hit the 30s because we're kind of high desert now.
wow.
I'm like up and away from LA.
Well, we're at the hour and a half mark. I think we did
Oh my
pretty good
gosh.
covering a lot of subjects, and
Yeah.
it was fun having you. Why don't you go
That
ahead
was
and
so
tell
fun.
everybody again about your socials and where they can get a hold of you or whatever.
Okay. Yes. You might have to search because I usually get bottom feeder censored on Book of Faces. But my old page on Book of Faces is Heidi Popp, but my newer one is Heidi Popp Rebooted. Same with my Instagram. There's Heidi Popp Rebooted. And then there's Heidi from Los Angeles for those cheeky, like on set memes and red pills. I still red pill over there. And then I have my YouTube, which I think scrolling through here, I think it's just Heidi Popp, but it's at Heidi Popp LA. And what else do I have? I have Rumble now too. All my little series are, oh, thanks, Jessica. Look at you rallying through. I saw you at the beginning. Aw.
Yeah.
I have all my, I don't know. I think I did it right on Rumble. I don't know, but each of the little series I do have their own little channel thing. So I'm over there. I think you just have to search. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron is one of the first podcasts I ever went on, and that was like fall of 2020. So that was I was at my little cell phone, and I'm just like, I thought the election thing was going to flip any minute. It was so funny. That was really fun. That went fast. I know my family wouldn't say so, but
Well, we need to have you back.
We'll just say goodbye to everybody in chat and make sure everybody go over to Heidi's Facebook and her YouTube channels and show the love over there and subscribe, and share it out. And
thank you for the chat.
Show going.
Yeah, thank you for that, guys. And I'll pull together a little synaptic circle with you all. Maybe it'll be like a Midwest love chat or something. Get
that'd be fun. Yeah,
Awesome.
let us
We're all about
know.
raising vibrations and sharing love out and doing kind stuff to others, and loving yourself. That's where it all starts. You got to love yourself, and that's a hard thing for some people to do.
That's true. That's really true. Yep. Yeah, I really truly want everyone to be their best self, and just please have faith in the future. We're teaching all these kiddos to empower themselves, and they're getting all their star knowledge turned on. So don't worry. Stop freaking them out. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Like we always say, keep looking up, raise your vibrations, do something kind for others, and do something kind for yourself. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be your best self.
Be your best self.
And forgive others.
Oh, yes. And yourself.
Yes. And yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and end it here, and we'll see you guys all next time.
Bye. Thank you.